Welcome to the Ignite Podcast, where we introduce thought leaders and subject matter experts that you'll want to consider for your next corporate event. Now, here's your host, Dennis Warden.
I want to welcome our listeners to the Ignite Speaker podcast to introduce you to a great friend, somebody that has become a hero of mine over the last couple of years, and that is Nick Santonastasso. And Nick, welcome to the Ignite Speaker podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, you know what? You are the epitome of overcoming fear, overcoming obstacles, living life on purpose. And so I just, like I said, I'm always inspired when I hear you speak and when we have time together on the phone. And so I just want to take this opportunity over the next few minutes to let the various organizations, companies, company owners, get to know you better and understand why and what kind of a difference it makes when Nick is part of a program. And let me just start with a question that we'll lead off with, and that is, you know, you're living in Nevada now, made the big move from Florida to Nevada, and but you're doing a lot of speaking, not just in Las Vegas, but on the West Coast, and it just was a positive, good move for you. But so the question is this: you get on the plane, you fly somewhere, you deliver your message. Right?
Yeah.
And then you get back on that plane and you fly back home. What is it that says that was a home run? That made a difference. Why do you do what you do, and what brings the reward that you're looking for from the passion you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, there's so many ways we can describe speakers, motivational speaker, inspirational speaker. And, not only, people call me a peak performance expert, but I like to label myself as a shifter of perspectives. And what I mean by that is, I believe that the way that you view the world and your mindset are the two most important things in order to live a fulfilled life, in order to have that financial freedom. And so, when I get on a plane and I go and speak, whether that's, 500 people or we just did 15,000 with Tony Robbins, I'm there to, channel and serve and show people that, I have a famous quote, the biggest disability is a bad mindset. But I want to show people that the most important thing is your psychology. That how 20% of business is mechanics. Everybody knows the mechanics, or you can learn the mechanics, but 80% is your psychology. And I'll prove it to you. We all know how to lose weight. We all know how to lose weight, but why don't we do it? Because, our inner beliefs get in the way. Our psychology gets in the way. We know if we put a little less food in this hole and we do a little activity, we'll lose some weight, but why don't people do it? Right. And so, I share my story. And the reason why I'm so compelled to do so is because, I was born with no legs and one arm. And at the time of my birth, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And I want to take advantage of this unique body that the God, universe, whatever it may be, gave to me, because it's been one of my biggest superpowers to break through people's perspectives. I've realized that one of my biggest superpowers is to make a room comfortable, and that means that they can open up, they can listen with an open mind, and they can share things. I just did an event in Vegas before all this craziness, and a lady came up and shared. I put them through a gratitude exercise. So they were reflecting on moments they were grateful for and moments they were proud of. And I had this lady come up and share that she was shot in the head and she almost died. But to be able to get someone to share that in front of a room of strangers, that really gets me going. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy meet and greets, right? Because I know there's a lot of speakers that show up and they just come for a check and they leave. But I want to hug. I want to meet every single person. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your breakthroughs. And so, what's a home run for me is when I know I give it my all, I show up and I pour my heart into people, but when they share in the room and they share to other people, that's where the real transformation takes place. And so when I can get people to share some deep, dark things that they don't usually share, I know that I made that room comfortable enough to open up. Right.
That's incredible. And the uniqueness of the audience, it can be different cultures.
Yeah.
It can be different age groups. I've seen you do both, and have the audience connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just another thing that really makes people comfortable and what we bring the room together is realize that we're all humans. Despite our colors and our backgrounds and whatever it may be, that we all struggle with the same things, and people can take a sense of comfort in that. They realize that they all have negative thoughts at times, or we're all focusing on the things we can't control versus the things we can. I mean, they pick up on the patterns that I see traveling all around the world. And so when people really realize, like, wow, we're all the same and we all struggle with the same things, and it's okay to share with other people, that's where people really get comfortable and they're able to open up. And so, what's a massive win for me is realizing that I made the room laugh, I made them sad, I made them pissed off at themselves, and I took them through this emotional roller coaster. And on the other side, they realize the things that they need to pinpoint and strengthen on.
That's great. And one of the things that you're really, and you speak to it, and that is turning failure into a friend, taking fear and dealing with fear. And the whole pandemic has been a matter of people taking, this thing called fear and dealing with it. And what do you think? What have you learned through this past and present experience? Because it's going to be with us, and then going forward, how can we really turn the recognition? Because one of the things that I see happening, and I'll shut up and then let you answer, but it's like we're all taking a pause. We all took a pause during, the lockdown, and during that time, we did a lot of reflection, and some of that reflection was on failure and how we want to be different or do something different now that we move forward. How do we make failure a friend?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a little story that will drive it home, at an early age, my parents sat me down and said, listen, you're born with no legs and one arm, and it ain't going to change. And the world out there ain't going to adapt to you. You got to adapt to the world. And so early on, my parents would put my clothes in front of me, and say, figure it out. And they give me verbal suggestions, but they make me fall down, try to put my shirt on. I get pissed off, all these things, right? And then my next challenge would be the food, right? They'd be like, here's a spoon and some food, figure it out. But what they were doing is first, they were getting me comfortable with uncomfortable situations. And I often think a lot of the times, not only humans, but kids, if they're not exercising that muscle of putting themselves in uncomfortable situations, then they run from it, right? One of the biggest fears a human has is fear of failure. And the reason why they have that fear is because their meaning behind failure is wrong. As we say, I look at failure as a buddy. I look at failure as a friend. Failure is where I grow. It's where I level up. It's where the juice of life comes from, right? And also what they were doing by putting those challenges in front of me was they were developing this skill, which is one of the most valuable skills we can have as humans, is becoming solution oriented. And what I mean by that is, instead of reacting to problems, instead of reacting to a lockdown, instead of reacting all the crazy things in the world, that we get our brain in the habit of stimulating solutions rather than focusing all our energy on the problem. Because as humans, our brain isn't designed to make us happy. That's our job to program it that way. Our brain is the survival brain, and it's designed to focus on your fears, focus on the negatives, focus on your insecurities. And that's why you have to be very conscious of our psychology. And so, a lot of the times when we have anxiety and stress about things as well, that means that we're not prepared enough. The separation comes from the preparation. If there's something in your life that's giving you anxiety, if there's something in your life that's giving you stress and fear, maybe you just need to prepare more a little bit. But regardless of whether you're in the lockdown or not, we need to be very conscious of the content we're consuming, on a day-to-day basis, and where our focus is, and I don't know if people know this, but when you're in a fearful state, when you're in a state of fear, your immune system drops drastically. Your immune system drops drastically. And so, you really want to be conscious of the things that you're focusing on. And, one thing that you can immediately implement is humans love the feeling of progress. We love the feeling of moving forward. And so, if you're in a slump, if you're in a rut, and you can't get out of it, remember Nick and his one finger and do one thing today that is going to evolve you into a better human being. That could be reading a podcast. That could be listening to a Zoom call like this. That could be reading a book, going to the gym, getting your body moving. But you want to start that momentum of progress.
And one of the other topics that I love that you talk about is just this whole idea of gratitude.
Yeah.
And earlier, you and I were talking about just going through whether it's a pandemic or various things that we go through, and how do you can either look at it negatively or you can look at it with gratitude. So talk
Yeah.
to me about how do you when you talk to a corporation, to a company, to a group of people, how do you tie gratitude into living life and living it on purpose?
Absolutely. So, just a quick example, you can have $1 million and be pissed off. What does the quality of your life look like?
Hmm.
Pissed off. Or you can have no money and be no money or $1 million, but be filled with gratitude. What does the quality of your life look like? See, like it really, wealth and happiness really comes down to how much gratitude that you can, consume, how much, you're exercising the muscle of gratitude. But not only that, it goes deeper to your psychology and your nervous system, because the emotion of gratitude outweighs all the negative emotions. So it is emotionally impossible for you to feel grateful and sad, grateful and mad, grateful and stressed, grateful and anxiety driven, right? It's emotionally impossible for you to feel those two things. And that's why gratitude is so important, because, as humans, we get caught up in day to day. We're going to work, we go home, we're with the kids, we're watching TV, and we forget about the fact that we woke up today. The
Hmm.
fact that we have a heart that was given to us, that what you didn't have to work for, you just was given life, right? Um, and also, the way you operate really comes down to your attitude, and the frequency that you're putting off. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a pissed off state, if you're in anxiety state, if you're stressed, you're not gonna stimulate the best solutions or the best ways to move forward in the company, right? But if you're coming from your heart, Tony, I love him. He has a quote that he says, "When you're in your head, you're dead. When you're in your heart, you're smart." And
Hmm.
so when you're filled up with gratitude, when you're filled up with appreciation for your work, your family, your kids, whatever it may be, then you're operating on a higher frequency. That will allow your brain to stimulate more solutions, ways to provide more value, ways to, have a better ROI, all those things. But if you're in this state of anxiety and stress and pissed off, you're not going to be stimulating the right solutions. And so that's why it's so important, not only in your personal life, but in your business life. You can go in and you can start your team meetings off with, what are the wins for the week? Or what is something that you appreciate today? Or what is
Hmm.
something that you're grateful for today? And getting that emotion, that transfer of energy with the whole team. And they're going to be operating at a higher frequency. And so, but if you come in and your team's stressed and they're pissed off and they're not focused on, all the things that they're great on, they're not going to be performing at the highest level possible.
One of the things that when you're talking about the gratitude and attitude and that, um, confidence plays a big role in that.
Mm,
And when you don't exercise those, number one, you lose confidence.
yeah.
Number two, those that are following you lose confidence in you. Talk to me about. I mean, you do a lot of talking and with regard to confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why is because when I was in middle school or high school, I was like, what is this confidence thing? I don't have legs. I guess I don't have confidence, right? Where does this thing come from? But I realized it's a skill, right? It's something that we cultivate. And a synonym for confidence is self-integrity. And what I mean by that is, as humans, Dennis, me, we're all guilty of committing to something and not following through. And we're like, oh, it's okay, maybe next time. But what we need to realize is the underlying issue. And the underlying issue is, every time that we commit to something and we don't follow through, we diminish the relationship we have within ourselves.
Hmm.
It takes a piece of us. It diminishes our work ethic. It diminishes our word. And your word as a human is one of the most important things, keeping your word, right? And so confidence is really committing to things and following through and self-praising yourself. And so, how you can build confidence is you commit to, like I said, waking up 30 minutes earlier, or you set, a few goals, hit them, and you applaud yourself. But what you'll notice is the highest achievers, the people that are playing life at the highest level, they often tie their confidence to their schedule, their work, how much time they're showing up, how productive they are through the day. Because we all know we've had days where we get more work done in 2-3 hours than in a whole week sometimes, right? Because we're in that zone. You feel better about yourself. You've got your step, or if you're me, you got a pep in your hop, right? So
Hmm.
you often, a lot of these high achievers tie their confidence level and the way they show up to their work ethic. That's because they keep their word within themselves. And so, I just want to spread light on the confidence thing and how all human beings struggle with confidence. And if you're sitting here saying, I got it down, that means your ego's in the way, and you got to push it aside and realize that there's always room for improvement, right? The training never stops. But if we can commit to things and following through, that's just like a lot of the times we go to the gym and we may not want to go to the gym, but after we go to the gym or after we move our body, we feel so much better. Why is that? Because we got it done.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, and you're not just a talking head. I mean, you work the platform, you work the stage, you have more energy than probably 90% of the other speakers out there. But where does that energy come from? And it's got to be, it's got to catch the attention of the audience. I mean, they've got to be just energized just by the way you have the energy on the stage that you do.
Yeah, listen, we can all agree that energy is contagious.
Yeah. Energy
is contagious, right? You all know that person in your business or in your life that's a vampire. And what I mean by that is when they walk into the room, the whole energy gets sucked out, right? And we also know that person who's the light, that they raise the energy in the room. They raise the smiles and appreciations. And so when I'm on stage, I'm facilitating, it's like I'm orchestrating, right? And so what I mean by that is if I come on stage and I say, hello, everybody. My name is Nick Santonastasso. People are like, get this guy off stage. I'm not going to listen to this guy, but I come out. I'm Nick Santonastasso, and I'm assertive. I'm demanding the attention in the room, and I'm drawing people into me. And that's also why, in interviews in person and such, people say, "Dude, I forget that you have no legs or an arm," because my presence is so massive.
Yeah.
My presence is so massive that everything else disappears. And so, it is my duty when I'm on stage to always show up as if I'm saying it for the very first time. Because, I visualize, what are these people going through? What are they thinking right now? What are the things that they are struggling with? And I want to show up for them because they gave one of their most important assets to me, their time. Their time. And I'll never take that for granted. And that's why I show up 110% on stage every single time, because it's my duty to provide as much value as I can and to make them like a true speaker makes people laugh. They make people smile. They make people pissed off. They make people sad. It's an emotional roller coaster because you're facilitating them through this experience. And so, I come out and maybe I'll do some dance moves, or I'll bring people up on stage, or I'll crack jokes about, living with no legs or an arm. And that makes people feel comfortable. And that's the key. If you really want to break through to people, you set a room and you make them feel comfortable with laughs, with stories that relate back to them, where they can say, wow, they see themselves in you. Because we're all human beings at the end of the day, despite having no legs and one arm, despite age, color, background, that we're all human beings and we're all struggling with the same internal battles.
One of the things going through the recent and ongoing, as I say, pandemic has been that whole thing about fear, and maybe the greatest fear has been the fear of death, the fear of dying. And one of the things I love that you say, you are driven by, I don't know how many days I have, but I'm going to use every day that I have to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an aggressive mantra, but the mantra is you're going to die. You're going to die one day. And that's not to scare you, but that's to tell you that for all we know, we only get one shot at this life. And I much rather, when I'm on my deathbed, that I look back on my life and I have more remember whens and less what ifs. I don't want to live with regrets. And that's why, I'm not in fear of failure, right? Because I much rather be in the trenches and fall on my face and pursue something that I truly enjoy than trying to build and sculpt someone else's life or a life that I don't enjoy, And so that's something that really pushes me. And then also, for the people that are always focused on death and always scared of it, that means you're dying 1,000 times. You can either die 1,000 times or you die one time.
Right.
So let's focus. Let's get to death when we get there, right? Let's get to death let's focus on death when that happens. Right. But for this time being, let's appreciate the present moment and see how we can capitalize every moment to be a better mother, to be a better father, to be a better leader, CEO, whatever it may be. Let's focus on the now, and let's focus on death when death comes knocks on our door.
But knocking at the door.
But you don't live your life in fear of death, but you can also use it as a drive. You can also use it as a motivation to appreciate each and every day and try to show up and max out the day, right?
I know that you spend time working on the business, learning more about not just the speaking business, but technology and all the things that help you be able to communicate to a broader and broader audience, because you can only be at one spot at one time. So you have that aspect going on. I know that you work out, and but what does Nick read? What are you reading now that you would say, this is a leadership book, or this is a personal growth book, or what would you recommend to our listeners that has made a difference in your life?
What I think is the Bible, right, of personal development, and you'll know this, is Think and Grow Rich. And that is, thoughts become things. And, even if you've read it once, that's a book that you need to read again and again and again, and do the exercises, because like the power of your thoughts are everything. And you need to realize that you're in control of your thoughts, and about it on a day-to-day basis. Your thoughts become emotions, and your emotions lead to action. Those actions can be negative based on your thoughts, or those actions can be positive based on your thoughts. And so, really, I mean, Think and Grow Rich. But right now, to be fully transparent with everyone, that I'm reading books on, the youth, because one of my passions I'm labeling myself as one of the mindset coach for the youth, because before I die, right before I go, I want to further or trickle down the knowledge of what I've learned and my invaluable perspective of living in this body to the future generation. So when I go, they're making the world a better place.
Yeah.
Then I'm also spending my time learning email copy, writing sales copy, writing product copy, creating products and services on the digital side of things, because especially, in times where events aren't going on, or maybe, you never know when the event business slows down, you want to make sure that your digital presence is just as strong.
Yeah.
And so, this gave me a time to focus on what are the weaknesses in the business. Now that I have some time home, what are the strengths that I can really focus on that we have a hole in? And so, now I'm reading books on digital copy and computer things, how we were talking about before the call, just, things that we have more time to learn,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm spending my time reading. But I would suggest that, people listen or read Think and Grow Rich, because I think it's something that is just, you can always read it, and you always take it from a deeper subconscious level, and you look at it a different way, especially when you're in a different part of your life.
Well, and I can say this to you, because I can say to a young man from somebody that, literally Think and Grow Rich, changed my whole life professionally. When I first read that, managing my first radio station, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I read that book, and it was like the light bulbs went off. And so, and here's generation after generation, what an incredible work. And I agree with you. I would encourage everybody, if they haven't read it, read it. If they have read it, reread it.
Read it again.
Can't hurt. Hey, let me ask you this. This is it's not a difficult question, but it's a question that says, why should I bring Nick in to speak for my company?
That's a great question.
I know you're not a big promote yourself. You are good at promoting yourself, but you don't have a huge ego. You just are the real deal. So
thank you.
What, but why should a company bring you in to speak for them?
The Charlie Brown effect. And what I mean by that is, we all know Charlie Brown. And what I mean by that is, you tell your employees to do something. They hear your voice all the time. You tell your kid to do your homework. He's like, eh. Your dad tells you to do your homework. Eh. Uncle Nick comes in, and suddenly doing homework is the greatest thing on earth. The reason being is because sometimes it takes a different person from a different walk of life with a different perspective to really break through the minds of people. And I eliminate all skeptics. I eliminate all the people that are skeptical in the room, because you can have a Tony Robbins on stage. You can have someone with a full body, and, they're like, who's this, rich white dude? What has he got to teach me? Look at him, look at that. But when a man with no legs and one arm comes out on stage, and he walks the walk or hops the hop, he shows up, he not only teaches things, but he lives the life. It eliminates all excuses. It eliminates all limiting beliefs. and they open up, they feel comfortable, and they're able to be more receptive than if someone else came on stage. And I'm not bashing anyone else. I'm just saying I have a unique superpower to pierce the barrier of the people in the room's perspective by eliminating all their skepticism, being skeptic, and all their excuses. There's really no justifications for them once I come out on stage.
That is great, and I've shared this with you both, Matt Emery and I. When we founded Ignite, it was not to represent dozens or hundreds of speakers, but it was to represent, number one, speakers that we really love to do business with, and then secondly, those that would really make a life-changing impact. And so it's been an honor. It continues to be an honor to work with you. And like you said, whether it's in person or digitally, anything and everything we can do to serve you, we're going to do that. But I would encourage, number one, I would encourage those listening to our podcast to go to igniteadvisorygroup.com. And in fact, on our homepage, you'll see a great video of Nick. Just click on that and you can see Nick in action. And then you can click there for further information. But is there any, you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, where other places that our listeners can go to learn more and get fed by you?
Yeah, Facebook, YouTube. I post a lot of my, content on Instagram. And, for those that are into TikTok, I just, I'm about to hit 1.8 million followers on TikTok. And so the kids really love me there. And I know my last name's long, so if you type in Nick Santo, I'm the guy with no legs, one arm, and tattoos, and there's not many of those running around the world.
Hey, I love your Chicago Cubs jersey you wear that's got Santo on the back. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
But hey, listen, thank you for the time you've carved out of your day to spend with us. And again, for those that are listening, I'd encourage you to go to igniteadvisorygroup.com, learn more about Nick, and it would be an awesome delight, I know, for him to meet you and for you to have him speak to your organization or your company. Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate you, brother.
You bet. Likewise.